Well, hello there, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Nancy Fox, the Business Fox, and I'm so glad to be with you today. I'm going to be talking about a really powerful topic. So many people ask me about why they are going through repetitive patterns of disempowering thinking, about patterns of highs and lows in their businesses. They are dealing with a constant repetitive situation in their careers, in their businesses, and in their lives. And I get these questions so frequently that I decided that I was going to do an entire video about this and talk to you about what I call the success block cycle. And I actually posted a diagram of this in our space so that you could actually follow along with me, because my whiteboard is too the writing is too small for you to see. So I want you to be able to follow along with it, and then feel free, of course, to ask any questions and post your comments, and I'll be happy to answer them. So first of all, let's talk a little bit about what a success block is. A success block is something where you watch yourself, you have your goals, you have your intentions, you have your aspirations, and for some reason, while you're doing all of the quote-unquote right things, you're doing all of the right work, putting the right strategies in place, putting the right tactics in place, doing all of the research, having everything set up properly, and yet you seem to be unable to either complete your objective, reach your goal. It's a constant pattern of striving, falling backwards, striving, falling backwards. Sometimes it's a pattern of, it could look like something like undercharging consistently, going through ups and downs in financial results. It could look like severe procrastination, severe time management issues, constant attracting the wrong clients or the wrong opportunities to you and your business. It can look like having similar kinds of relationships in your life which feel very toxic, and they're similar. There's a pattern happening, and you're not sure exactly what the heck is going on. And so everything that you attempt to do to adjust, to repair, to eliminate, it seems to work maybe incrementally for a while. But ultimately, it falls back into the same pattern, and you're not sure why. And what you focus on exactly is the why. Like, why is this happening? So that you use the why to try to figure out how to fix it. So I'm gonna break all of this down, and I'm gonna say some pretty radical things today. So get ready. They break the mold of what common thinking is around success and how we achieve success. And the reason I'm going to be sharing with you is because so much of what is actually causing the very challenges that you're experiencing over and over and over are not happening at the conscious level. So we have to do a little, digging in there and show you a little bit about how the mechanisms work, so you really get what really is, what's been holding you back, and what there is to do about it that will really lance the issue, dissipate the block, in fact, blast it apart forever. All right, so first I want to give you an example of what a really persistent success block looked like for one of my students. One of my students was a trained lawyer. She had a long-term career as a lawyer. And then she decided that she really liked the marketing of law, and she was very interested in that. She got trained in law and legal marketing and became an executive in a major law firm, and had a great run at that, and did very, from a position level and from income earning, you would consider it to be a very successful position. But she was very unfulfilled and unhappy. The politics in a law firm are very often just crushing. They're toxic and crushing, and there's a hierarchy that is not like corporate America, and sometimes it's very subtle and very damaging, and she really felt like it was the wrong way to live. She had a bigger purpose and more. She was very passionate about mindset work and about helping people from the inside out. She was a big believer, and she was well trained in emotional intelligence. She was very, very eager to work on that. And so at some point she had a turning point moment. She did some soul searching. She had a turning point moment, and she made a decision to leave her job and to begin her career as an entrepreneur. And so she decided that she wanted to consult to law firms on emotional intelligence and do training and coaching for law firms. And so she began, and it worked. She started to get some assignments because she knew people in the profession. She got some assignments. It was very slow going, but she got some, and yet she really was unable to actually replace her previous salary. So there was a real financial burden that she was experiencing. So she had she was determined and very, very intentional about it, but she seemed to be stuck. She had a great concept for her business. She had great, very proven skills. She was well trained. She was well respected. A true professional. She knew the profession inside and out because she had grown up in it. And yet her results were very baffling for her. And so that's when we started to go to work together. So, of course, naturally, being a professional, most professionals are operating from the left side of their brain, which is very, very logical and very, it's very logical, it's sequential, it's tactical. And so we went to work on some really new strategies for her. And we came up with some, important ones. But when it came time to executing on them and to engaging the right potential clients, landing them, and then elevating her income in working with them on a consistent basis, there was some very dominant patterns that were showing up. People were having great pitch meetings with her. She was having great meetings with them. They were taking their sweet time in giving her their decision. She was uncomfortable in guiding them and requiring them to move more swiftly with her to come to fruition of the deal. And when they were closing, when they were actually engaging her, she was not getting paid on time consistently, and she was undercharging consistently. And she could see it, and every time we went through these strategies about what to say and how to say it and who to say it to and how to deliver it and how to prepare yourself and all the mindset work and all of that. We did a lot of we talked about a lot of meditation, a lot of visualizations and affirmations and all of that. And she did all of that work. And yet she was unable to break through and to have a breakthrough in this, right? The same pattern was emerging. She would have great conversations and pitch meetings with her clients, her potential clients, and they were taking their sweet time in giving her their answer. They pushed her off. They gave her promises, and they didn't come to fruition. And so there she was, sort of, like she was sort of on the hamster wheel, and she felt very stymied. So she felt powerless because she knew the opportunities were available. She watched her competitors landing deals, and yet she was struggling for no good reason, apparently. So we went to work from the inside out. And what we got to was we began to dig deeper, and I showed my student exactly where the first instance of her getting stopped in her life really was, and what the filter that she was seeing everything through from that point forward, because her first memory of what actually began the stop and the success block, was at the age of 4.5. And that messaging stuck with her, and she was dragging it around for her whole life, and she had never realized that was the starting point, and she never realized that was actually a core filter theme that was running her life, because it was buried so deep that she had never seen how that had any relevance in her adult life. And I'm going to explain a lot about this in a moment. So what happened was we began to actually clean out her filter and give her a completely new theme that she not only recognized on the conscious part of her brain, but we actually taught her how get mastery over the subconscious part of her mind and teach her subconscious to absorb the new messaging, to absorb the new theme, and to rid herself of what she had, she had this, there was the way she had sort of navigated through her adult life was, sort of a fix, she sort of was, it's like when you lose one sense, like if you lose your eyesight, your hearing gets very strong. Well, she had sort of overcompensated in other areas to be, to have a successful in quotes life, but it wasn't fully actualized. So we cleaned out her filter, gave her a new theme that was a core theme for her that she embraced fully and learned how to ingest it, digest it, and absorb it into her entire being, and to not operate from a fixed kind of a place, a flawed fixed kind of place, but from a strength place, and create a whole new operating system. So in essence, what we did was we interrupted the pattern, we dismantled the pattern, and then we rewired the entire mechanism so that she had a new thinking pattern. And it was powerful because it allowed her to create a whole new avenue of business. It allowed her to create a new avenue of business, which allowed her to travel, earn more money, command her worth, to have more confidence, to get the right results with the right clients. And she was no longer at the effect of, this is what they said to me, I have to wait until they're ready. No, she started to command how she was going to have her business go. And that was because she had a completely new filtering system that she was operating under. So how do we do that for ourselves? Well, first of all, you need to understand how the mechanism works and how it works against you. So if you pull out your diagram, at the beginning of the cycle, we're talking about what I call the success block cycle. So at the very top, you're going to see that we begin with a thought. Everything begins with energy, and energy, the energetic elements turn into a thought. So what is a thought actually? A thought, from a scientific brain science viewpoint, there are neurons in our brains, right? Our brains are made of, well, obviously millions of things, cells and all of that, but the neurons, the cells that make up the neurons, when neurons connect like this, then there is it's an electrical connection, literally electrical. And so, that synapse happens, and as soon as that synapse happens, then chemicals are released. Now, these neurons are dictated on two levels, one on the subconscious level and on the conscious level. And so we have two different kinds of thoughts. We have conscious thoughts and we have subconscious thoughts. The subconscious thoughts are designed as a fail-safe system. It's the most primitive part of the brain. The frontal lobe, which is the conscious part of the brain, is the biggest part of the brain, but it doesn't have as much power to dictate as the subconscious, which is smaller. And the reason is the subconscious is designed to keep us safe and thriving and alive. And so it is a major filtering system. And our subconscious minds are fully formed until we're at about the age of 5 or 6. Our subconscious minds are still in development. So there's still time to actually rewire and rework it and massage the subconscious, but most of us it's actually happening, and it's being formed and solidified through outside influences that are most powerful and important to us. Parents, family members, physical experiences, these start to get ingested into the subconscious mind. They are solidified by repetition, and it's a filtering system. The subconscious mind is actually like a filing cabinet. And if I break it down for you really simplistically, there are many, many things that the subconscious mind is responsible for, but basically all of our thoughts are being filed in two major buckets, positive and negative. Things that make us feel good and things that make us feel bad. Things that we think are good and things that we think are bad. Subconsciously, we don't think about good, bad. Our subconscious is just doing it automatically because it is designed for one thing, survival. It's not there to make you feel good. It's there for survival. So that is the thing, the subconscious mind is working even when we're sleeping. That's why, there's so much available to us to use our subconscious minds and to program it while we're sleeping. But most people never think about that. No, they don't learn about it. We're not taught that. So we're sort of at the effect of the subconscious mind for most of our lives. So the thoughts come in, they're filtered into good, bad, right? No. And then what happens is the neurons connect, electrical charge, right? And then the chemicals are released. When the chemicals are released, whether they be the chemicals that we attribute to positive emotions or negative emotions, that will act. Those chemicals are the components that allow us to recognize that we are having an emotion. So if we have adrenaline, adrenaline can actually make us feel two things. Adrenaline can make us feel excited and enthusiastic, and it can also make us feel very fearful. Endorphins can make us feel sort of, high and giddy. And so all these chemicals are going to dictate whether we feel emotionally good or not good. And that's why when there's an imbalance in the chemical brain, it can often lead to a severity in emotional states, right? So all of these chemicals are there, and when we get the chemicals and we now realize we're having an emotion, over time, we are now having familiarity with thought, neuron connection, chemical release, emotion, positive or negative. And over time, we start to have interpretations about what these emotions are. And these, over time, when they're repetitive, when you start to have a repetition of endorphins, or so if you're an exerciser and you start to or if you're active and as a kid the endorphins kick in, or anxiety can be repetitive. You can feel the anxiety chemicals, and so that becomes repetitive. And so these things start to get hardwired into your system, so that now at the beginning of the cycle, thought, neuron connection, chemical release, emotion, and then that turns into the repetition of the emotion, and the thinking process turns into a belief, what we call a belief. And when we have a belief, at the same time, as human beings, we're interpreting beliefs. So the interpretation is where it gets very tricky. So for some people, an interpretation can be life-altering, because forevermore you feel locked into when someone says something in a particular way, and you're having the thought that this thing was said, and it is triggering the chemicals and an emotion, and your belief is emanating and your interpretation is emanating from that. You're now into the very hardwired beginning of the cycle. You're in a belief, you're stuck in it, you've interpreted it, and there's no way out. And what's happening is there's another part of the subconscious brain, which is called the reticular activating system, and this is a subconscious filter. It's a very, very powerful mechanism. The reticular activating system is a powerful filter in the subconscious part of the brain, and it is exactly where it's at this place where your core filter and your core filter theme, your life theme, is getting created. So when you have a consistent flow of similar thoughts, chemical reactions, emotions, interpretations, your reticular activating system is now in full tilt, and your filter, it's now creating the filter through which you see everything. So let me give you an example of what happened for the student that I told you about. So she had one of her earliest memories was her father telling her that she needed to follow the rules if she was ever going to be having a good life. And as a young kid, she was probably 4.5 when this happened, as she remembers it. She remembers her father saying that she had to follow the rules, and what she remembers that she said to herself as a 4.5-year-old is, I will not be okay, I will not be loved, I will not be safe, and love can be taken away from me if I don't follow the rules. So hence she chose a career where rules are everything, right? She chose being a lawyer, there's nothing more important than the rules. It's all about the rules. So she created a career that was all about following rules, following the law, and so she became successful according to that core filter and life theme that she had heard as a young kid. She needed it to protect herself, because as a young kid, if you feel like love's going to be taken away from you and you could be unsafe and you don't know if you're going to be cared for, if you don't follow the rules, you're going to follow the rules, because as a developing child, the only thing that matters to you is safety and protection and love, so that you're going to be okay in life. So that's what she did. So, and then when she began to realize that everything was for her about following the rules, here was the way she, when you realize when your subconscious mind creates the filter, this core filter, which is, I'm not going to be loved unless I follow the rules, your subconscious does something even more tricky. It creates a fix, and what I call the flawed fix. So it would sound something like, well, I'm not going to be, I'm going to have to follow the rules. So here's what I'm not going to be loved unless I follow the rules. So I will become really, really smart, so that people will love me, will give me love, will give me acceptance, and I will be okay. And so that was her mechanism. Her fix was, instead of just following the rules, she also put a fix in there to be really, really smart, get really, really good grades. And it basically, what she did with that was she canceled out everything else in her life that didn't really follow a pathway of following the rules and allowing her to look smart. So it was always about really looking smart. So when she started to do marketing for law firms, she was now in a position of being smart in her position, showing lawyers how to market better, and she loved the feeling of helping them be successful, and she got to look really, really smart, but she was unfulfilled because it was a fix. So some other fixes would look like, I'm not very physically active. I'm not very physically capable. I'm not a good athlete. As a young kid, there are a lot of expectations about whether you're going to be smart or whether you're going to be athletic, or whether you're going to be very attractive, or whether you're going to be very creative. You get messages as a young kid. So normally, let's use one as if you're like me. For me, when I was a kid, I was very scrawny, and I wasn't very capable. I didn't have natural hand-eye coordination. So the message I got was, you're not physically fit. You're not physically athletic. You're never going to be physically athletic. So my fix was, okay, I can't be an athlete. I can't be good at sports. So I'll be smart. And so I started to really study very hard. I wanted to get all A's. That's how I compensated. The flawed fix is a compensation. Sometimes people use compensation if they feel like, another one might be, I'm not really pretty, so I'll be a really great athlete, or I will be very creative. And so a lot of things happen where people turn the life, that core filter that's coloring everything, that you're seeing everything through, and they turn it into what I call the winning formula, that flawed fix. Now, here's what happens. The reticular activating system is there to protect its own mechanism. It will do anything to protect itself, anything, including, making you sick. If it feels like it's threatened, it will give you physical ailments to stop you dead in your tracks if you try to veer outside of the filter. That's why so many people, when they try to veer outside of what they're accustomed to and what they're used to doing, having the same thoughts and patterns over and over, when you try to break free on your own from the logical part of your mind, from the conscious part of your mind, you fall backwards, because the reticular activating system and your subconscious mind and that filter, that insidious filter, is determined to keep you safe and stuck. It doesn't know the difference between safe and stuck. All it knows is, I know how to keep you safe. Don't venture out. So every time you try to venture out, it's going to drag you back. That's why the yo-yo effect. That's why the pattern. That's why you keep attracting the same toxic people in your life. You keep acting the same way. You try to consciously fix it, and the same results keep happening. Now, here's the kicker. Your reticular activating system is constantly looking for evidence that it's right. So if you decide that you want to take new action steps and set higher goals for yourself, right? Your conscious mind is saying, I'm going to go for it. I've got great intentions. I'm going to have bigger affirmations. I'm going to go for the gold. I'm going to set higher goals. I can do it. Your conscious mind is saying that. But your reticular activating system is now becoming a heat-seeking missile to protect the core filter message, and it's looking for evidence that going outside of that core filter is a mistake. It's looking for all the evidence that you're doing the wrong thing. So a really insidious example of this is, I feel this feels wrong to me. You'll say, if you hear yourself saying, I'm doing new things, but it just feels wrong to me. Of course it feels wrong to you, because your reticular activating system is looking for old evidence of how to keep you safe and stuck, and you're going into new territory, and it's looking for evidence that you're making a mistake by doing that. So any little indication, if a result is taking too long to happen, or if your result is happening once and it doesn't happen again, you now look at it as evidence that you made the wrong move and that you should never have veered away from your old pattern. And that's why every time people tell you to say affirmations and to visualize, that's why it's so challenging, because when you step outside of that familiarity zone, that core filter, as soon as you step outside of that, your subconscious mind is dragging you back and is immediately looking for evidence to prove you unwise, foolish. What made you think you could do that? Who said that you could do that? Where did you get the idea that you could be more successful than you've been before? The past is the dictating factor for you. That's where you should look, to the past. But that's the flawed system at work. And it's the only way out of this trap, which it's really a trap, because on the one hand, your subconscious mind is there to protect you from, being eaten by lions, or falling off a cliff, or walking across the street when traffic is coming, but it's not there to help you expand and grow and be more in your life, and to take the right risks and allow you to optimize your true purpose and follow your dreams. It's not there to help you do that. So the whole idea of this, you've got to do, this is where we're going. And most people, when you try to change your life, you're trying to change your thinking at the conscious level. You're doing it in the wrong place. The idea is right, but it's just that you're attempting to create new results at the wrong stage of the cycle. The place to actually disrupt it is at the core filter stage. You've got to get very clear about what the core filter, where it began, what the message is, and very often you're not aware of it, because it's deeply buried and it's at the subconscious level. It's it's down in many, many layers. And most of the time you're working at, if you've gone through any kind of self-awareness training or therapy or anything, you're only working at a very conscious level. You're not working at the deepest level where the core filter theme got formed. And unless you get to the absolute essence of this, you're only going to be fixing, it's like putting jelly on top of peanut butter. Underneath is still the peanut butter, and it's dictating the flavor of everything. And that is why the patterns keep happening. So what do we do about this? Well, first of all, there's a wonderful opportunity here, because here's the thing. Remember back to the neurons. If the neurons are creating your thoughts and creating the chemical reaction, which now creates the emotion, you can now, if you learn how to create new kinds of thinking, right? Then the new chemicals are going to get released, and you can start to do it at will, and people do. And then you're going to have new emotions, and you start to get into the habit of a new system, right? You can start to actually create a new core theme in your life, but you can't do it at the conscious level. You have to start retraining your subconscious mind. Ain't so easy, right? Not really. It is easy, but you have to start with doing the deeper work first, and you have to start working at you have to do the three things that I said before. Number one, you must interrupt, and the place to interrupt is not at the conscious thinking level. You've got to interrupt at the theme level, at the core filter level. If you don't clean out the filter, every thought is going to be a repetition or some version of the old mechanism. You've got disrupt at the core filter. That's where you have to clean it out. It's like cleaning out your clock, but you got to get in there at a very deep level and do it. So you have to start to learn how to access your subconscious mind. Now, many of us do use accessing the subconscious mind tools like meditation and visualization, but this is exactly why so many people struggle with visualizations, because you're trying to visualize on top of something you don't really believe. Remember, thought, chemical reaction, right? Emotion, and then belief. And so you've got an already operating belief system, and you can't just change your belief like that, because you've got to get at the core filter of it. That's when you're going to start to be able, so you've got to interrupt the pattern, you've got to dismantle it, clean out the filter, and now create a whole new system that you have mastery over on a regular basis. That's why vision boards don't work. Vision boards are just nice pictures that you like, that make you look at and say, oh, I like that, I want that. But they're not mechanisms that you really can embrace and integrate and digest and put into your DNA. They can't. That's why I encourage you all to really look at doing your vision boards, not like vision, but belief. If you're putting something on your vision board that's not a belief, it's not going to work, because the core filter is going to kick it out. Reticular activating system is much stronger than those pretty pictures on your vision board. Now, if you have pictures on your vision board that you really believe and that are integral with your core filter theme, different. That's a different thing. But many of you don't separate this out and don't even realize that this is happening at this core subconscious level. So we've got to start having mastery over our core filter. We have to dismantle the old one and create a completely new one as adults, and start to get mastery over this. Because remember, we've been operating with a hardwired system for decades that was created by the mind of a 3, 4, and 5-year-old or 6-year-old. It's crazy. That's what's running the show. I speak to many women and many students, and when I ask them what their first memories are, and then I compare it to some of the internal messages that they hear themselves saying in their adult lives, they're in this exact match. Sometimes it came from, father to daughter, very powerful. Sometimes it came from a teacher to, one of your earliest teachers says one thing to you, and you integrate it in your, 4 or 5-year-old little mind, and forevermore it's running your whole life, because you believe your teacher, because your teacher is somebody that you trust to keep you safe and protected and guide you and be a powerful, a positive force in your life, right? A 5-year-old doesn't know, it's difficult for them to interpret who to trust and who isn't. Anybody that's involved in their life, that they just sort of, they're digesting everything. And so the filtering system is very malleable up until that point, but after 6, it's much more difficult to break it down, but not undoable. Now, here's what happens. Once your reticular activating system has utilized that core filter and the flawed fix goes into place, you're now looking for evidence everywhere, right? And this is a really good place to look at, because when you recreate your new filter, your evidence seeking is going to change dramatically. That's one of the ways to start retraining your brain, right? But then you want to reinforce it and reinforce it and reinforce it. It's just like developing when you're looking to develop muscle. Your repetition is everything. When you're looking to learn, repetition is everything. The first time you sit down to play the piano, it's the first time, and you learn a piece of music. If you don't practice it, you're going to forget it. If you don't practice a foreign language, you're going to forget it. You need repetition, aka reinforcement. So the system works, just to review. The system is a thought, which is it's going to either be a conscious thought or a subconscious thought. Neuron connection, chemical reaction, which becomes the interpretation of that is your emotion, and a belief system that emanates from that. The belief system, right, is an interpretation about you. You make it mean something about you. If you feel anger, I'm an angry person, therefore I must be bad. That's the interpretive piece of it. and you create meaning around that, meaning about you, and you drag it around with you, and your reticular activating system is constantly looking for evidence of you're an angry, bad person, angry, bad person, angry, bad person. That's the core theme. I'm an angry, bad person. You fix it by shutting down your feelings, retreating, becoming an introvert, kind of thing. Then you're looking for evidence all around you why you're you can't break free. You're still angry no matter what you do. You're going to be angry. You're going to fail. You're going to be angry. You're going to fail. It's all of that repetitive stuff. But if you teach your subconscious mind to have it create a new filter within that, and you embrace it, and you start to learn how to seek evidence around the new filter, now you can start to reinforce it and have new thoughts. And that is where you can start to really recreate new results in your life, where they stick, not where you get it once and done, or like a yo-yo. That's when it really sticks. It's powerful, right? Have you noticed that you might have some patterns going on that are your common, always happening success blocks? The same stuff happens over, maybe different versions of it, but it's the same thing. It's a pattern. If you see that you're having a pattern, if you notice yourself saying yes, but a lot, and you notice that the same, you trip over the same situations continually in your life, and it pisses you off, you're fed up, it's time to create a new cycle. Yes, break free of the success block cycle and have a breakthrough in your success blocks, and to create a whole new operating system for yourself. So just to review, you've got to interrupt it, you've got to dismantle it, and you've got to rewire your subconscious thinking and create your new core theme, that filter that you're going to see everything through. So instead of somebody being an angry person, you're somebody who's a person who has a great deal of confidence and is excited about having thoughts and opinions. It's not about anger. It's you feel like you've got viewpoints in the world, and you want to share them, and you want to make a difference in people. It's a very different filter than saying you're angry. So it's really very, very powerful stuff. And I want you to know that every single one of us, this is not like you're terminally unique if you've got a success block cycle going on. We all have them. The problem is they're in the blind spot. We can't see our own cycle. We can't see it. It's hidden from our view. And the weird thing is that other people can see our blind spots, but we can't see them. Which is why, if you're stymied and frustrated by this constant success block cycle that you've been experiencing, and you've been using the same mechanism, the same tools, the same approaches, or trying different things, and you're only getting incremental results, and then you slip back or it crops up again, I'm going to invite you to book a clarity call with me, www.thebusinessfox.com/book a call. Let's have a conversation to help you identify where your unique success block is centered, what your core filter theme is, and what is possible for you in recreating a completely new theme so that you can be free of these blocks once and for all. And then you can go from stalled to soaring in your business, in your career, in your life. www.thebusinessfox.com/book a call. I'm Nancy Fox, The Business Fox. Have a great day.